Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Literary Apothecary, and first, before I get into my review, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our first two Patreons and our book addicts. Thank you to Evie and Leslie, and as always, I have the Patreon information and our Discord information down below if you want to join in. No pressure, but just to throw that out there if you wanted to join. Now, into our review of Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I absolutely loved this book so much. Thank you to Anya and Abby and Ariel and Angela and Sharon and Charmaine and Zara and Merv for all creating this group where we can talk about this book together. It was so good. Such a good book. So from Blood and Ash, this is book 1 in the Blood and Ash series. We get Poppy, who is our protagonist, and she is the maiden. And this book takes place in another world where there's Craven, which are like kind of like vampire-esque creatures. We have Wolven, which are basically like werewolf type creatures. We get the Ascended, who are people chosen to serve gods, and they come kind of immortal but also can be killed, and they are kind of like the head vampires. So Poppy is basically like the symbol of all of this, and we follow her through her journey, learning the truth about the history and the truth about her people. And we have war, we have romance, we have sex, there's supernatural fighting, and it was just a really exciting and well-written book. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. The writing, like I said, the writing in this book was just so good. Armentrout's writing style was so smooth and bingeable. I often found myself reading 50 pages when I thought I had only read like 20 pages. So it was that kind of addictive writing that you just can't stop once you get going. And I never lost interest in the book or the characters or the story. I never lost track of the story, what was going on. You kind of learn the story as you go through the book, so it's not like a book that you've read one chapter and you know exactly what the story is about, but it's a book that you kind of learn the story as the book goes on. But I enjoy those books, I guess more like a mystery, but I liked because I like to go into the book blind and not really know what the book is about. I enjoy those books more because you can just learn the story as the character is learning it. I can't wait for book 2, which is called A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, and I'm hoping to maybe get to that in March before book 3 comes out in April, so I'm really looking forward to that and seeing where this story goes. And now I'm going to start talking some spoilers. So I'm going to have a spoiler-free review, which is everything before this, and then a spoiler review, which includes all of this talk, because I can't talk about this book without talking about the ending. That last 150 pages or so was so crazy. Like, I didn't expect, where do I even start? I didn't expect Hawk to be the dark one. I didn't expect Kiernan to be a Wolven. I didn't expect them to then kind of take Poppy hostage, and then like first we learn through Hawk that he's going to use Poppy as like a hostage bargaining tool to get the Dark One's brother, and then Poppy is attacked by all the other Craven at this camp, and then Hawk uses his blood to kind of heal Poppy, and we learn that Hawk is an Atlantean, which is like her people's absolute worst enemies. And then we learn that, like I said, Hawk is the Dark One and not just an Atlantean. And then at the very end, we learn that like Hawk, it really is in love with Poppy, and everything he's told her is true, and that he's gonna take her home to Atlantia to marry her and make her his princess. And that ending was just so well written. It just like everything happens within just like a couple chapters. In one chapter we get Hawk and Poppy making out under a tree when they're back at Poppy's home, and then Victor, her other guard, comes and catches them holding hands, and then there's war on the castle and Poppy fighting with Victor, and Victor is killed, all in like one chapter, whereas other authors would stretch that out for 5 or 6 chapters at least, or just make a whole entire book out of that. And so I really appreciated that Armentrout just threw everything like that in one chapter and then moved on with the story. That wasn't the entire story. There was so much more to the story. It felt like she knew exactly where she wanted this whole story to go the whole time that she was writing this book, and she wasn't just figuring out as she was writing it. And I really appreciated that, because it showed that she really thought through this whole entire story, the whole plot, the whole book, and the whole series. And I can't wait to get to book 2 and see what happens with Hawk / Cass / the Dark One / Prince and Poppy once they get to Atlantia. I'm very excited about this. My favorite characters are Poppy and Tawny, which is Poppy's like best friend there essentially. It's very rare that my favorite character is the protagonist and the main character, but I really, the book was told mainly through Poppy's point of view, and usually I side more with the side characters and I can relate with them more, but I was there with Poppy this whole time, and I wasn't bored with her point of view because she was learning stuff as we were learning it, and I really enjoyed just her narration style. So my favorite characters were Poppy, and Tawny was just a great best friend. She was like, you know, at times she told Poppy that Poppy should not be doing this, but she was also there to support her through whatever she wanted to do. And then there's 2 quotes that I pulled out from this book, and that is, physical pain was almost always hot, but the kind that couldn't be seen. It was almost always cold. And that is a quote from Poppy's narration, and this is kind of explained. Here's some more spoilers. So Poppy has this ability that she can feel people's pain, but she can also kind of take it into herself, take it away from them temporarily. And that whole idea is so intriguing to me. I love that idea. So that we learned early on in the book, and that was part of the reason why I was intrigued throughout this whole book, because you see Poppy's abilities kind of maturing and expanding. At first it starts with pain that she can sense from other people, and then as the book goes on we learn that maybe it's more emotions than just pain, and I was really intrigued with that idea. And then the second quote says, "My heart seemed to restart and was now in a race with itself." And I just loved that quote, because you know that feeling of like your heart being stopped and then going forward and then just racing. And so, like I said, I absolutely loved this book. Thank you, Anya, for sending it to me at Christmas time and for pushing me to read it, because I absolutely loved it and I can't wait for book 2. So 5 out of 5 stars for From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. And like I said, I'll post a spoiler-free review and then the full review with spoilers on Wednesday. And if you've read From Blood and Ash, let me know what you thought of this. Did you love it as much as I did and the rest of my group? Also, let me know what you thought of book 2 without giving spoilers away. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye. So another just so relatable, and they felt like real life characters. Like, this takes place in a fantasy world with fantastical creatures and events happening and magic, but the characters just felt like everyday people. Like, I could be best friends and enemies and brothers and sisters with all of these characters, and that's part of what kept me interested in the whole story the whole time, and why I loved this book so much, because the characters just felt so real to me, which is so hard to do sometimes, especially in a fantastical world. So Jennifer Armentrout really did an excellent job with making those characters relatable and realistic and just like everyday people.